And Barbara, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Happy to be with my Trainertainment family today. It's just a great opportunity to spend time with you guys and with our Trainertainment clients.
Yes. Before we jump into today's topic, for those who don't know who you are, tell who you are and what services they provide.
People First is a payroll, human resource, and bookkeeping company. I've been in the business for over 40 years. I have my degree in HR, and I'm also certified in HR, human resources. And so we provide payroll, benefits, not that we sell benefits, we administer benefits, write employee handbooks, coach and counsel business owners when they have problem children, or when they want to reward employees. We also help them put programs together for that as well. And in addition to that, we provide bookkeeping services.
Awesome. Okay, today we're going to talk about a not so great topic, but it's one that when you need it, you're going to be really thankful that you took the time to put it in place. We're going to talk about disaster plans. So, Barbara, what is a disaster plan in business? Like, what should it cover?
Well, my disaster plan that I have for People First, and we're all still in Florida. I'm a virtual company now. So, but it is a plan. What happens if you have in South Florida or in Florida anywhere, a hurricane? And that's common in a lot more places than it used to be. But what do you do in the case of a hurricane? An earthquake, a pandemic. I've been teaching at the university for 19 years, and I always used to talk about disaster plans for a pandemic and never had a real life scenario.
You taught about disaster plans for a pandemic prior to 2020?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. The bird flu, I don't know if you remember that. It was COVID, but yeah, we were talking about what do you do? And this actually happened. And I remember, I wish I could go back to that class and say, do you remember we talked about what happens when your town is shut down and you can't leave? We had that. We couldn't fly. We could if we were an emergency, but there were people that were locked up in their homes, couldn't go to work, couldn't do anything. Yeah. And so what does a business do? There were businesses, hospitality business, that was a major effect. So what is our plan? Now with COVID, it's a little different because, there were companies that couldn't continue and have gone out of business. Others, like myself, people were still needing to get paid. They were still needing to have their books done. So we were able, and what was going on, we were able to help those businesses with getting money. The government was offering funding. The government was extending COBRA, paying for COBRA for 6 months. So all of those things we were on top of to help clients who still were in business and were, dealing with employees. But what do we have that says, if this, then this? If we have this, what are we going to do? And so for me, I have a hurricane plan that, when we, and it says what I do, hurricane season is from June 1st to November 30th. So in May, we make sure we've got our insurance lined up. We've got pictures of our offices. I can actually use a bowling center example because before People First, I was working in a bowling center as the controller, and I wrote the hurricane plan for them, and then I tweaked it for my business. But go out on the roof and make sure that all the drains are clear of leaves. You don't want water building up on the roof. We literally had a bowling center that in a tornado flood situation, the water collected on the roof and the whole roof collapsed. It was a hailstorm. Because I remember the pictures of the cars in the parking lot it was like softball size hail that put dents in all the cars. So, be prepared in advance. Have your plan. I know hailstorms, hurricane, we have a season. So back to my example of the hurricane plan, May is when we look at everything and have all of our phone numbers together, all of our employees, who's their emergency contact. We ask for a contact that they would be in touch with who's not in the area of the business or where the employee lives. because, we learned this from Hurricane Katrina. So many people were displaced to Iowa, to Minnesota, and employers could not find their employees because they couldn't reach them on their phone number they had on file because it was a local number that wasn't working. The people didn't have cell phones to reach. So and part of the, result of Katrina, HR folks in that area came up with toolkits. This is what we learned from this disaster that we recommend you do. One of which was on your emergency contact, not only have the immediate emergency contact, which could be a spouse or a parent that you're living with.
Yeah.
You want to have a relative or someone that you would be in touch with outside the area, so that if we can't find you, we would call that person and go, hey, have you heard from Candy? There was a problem where she lives, and she's in Florida. And I know for me, it's my cousin in New York. So my staff knows if they can't find me after the storm, they can call my cousin, because they know that if anybody, that's who's going to know what our situation is. So have that plan. And then you want to have employees assign certain tasks. So if we're in a hurricane, if a hurricane is out there, like right now, we've got a potential of Hermione is whatever. So are we ready? Do we have what we need? Do we have, are all of our payroll clients aware that, we've got this situation? When we go into a watch, meaning it's not going to necessarily happen, but we're watching it, we have certain steps that we have to take. When we're in a warning, it means that we're going to get that storm within 24 to 36 hours. At that point, we are buttoning down the hatches at the office. And I also, in my hurricane plan, have a checklist of what employees need to do for home. Because a lot of people don't think about it. You got to fill your car with gas. I had an employee who didn't listen to me. And after Hurricane Wilma, we were out for a week. My office was on the hospital grid. So we could get to the office. She couldn't get to work because she didn't have any gas in her car, and all the gas stations, this was before the requirement of gas stations having generators. She did not have a way to get to work because she had no gas in her car. She had used her car to recharge her cell phone because she had no power.
Yeah.
So, and we have a hotline that they know to call. And we also, those are all the things you have to think about and set up. What's the communication way? Are we going to have a tree? With technology now, there's WhatsApp, there's other things that, we just went from calling Barbara's cell phone because she'll leave a message. Now we have a WhatsApp group for People First. So that's how we're going to keep in touch. And then after the hurricane or after the storm, what do? We have to assess the office before we can tell people to come back to work.
Yeah.
I'm virtual, so I want my employees to take the People First equipment. Of course, I want them to protect themselves. I don't mean being selfish.
Of course, after themselves, but
I want my equipment to be protected. I don't want, if the computer is sitting by a window, I want them to move that computer out of that window if they don't have shutters on their windows. So all of those things are steps to take, and who's responsible for what. And then, when the expectation is to come back to work. You've got earthquakes. We're not in an earthquake prone area, but you've got people in California that, I'm sure you could talk to HR folks in California and ask, what is your disaster plan should there be an earthquake? Tornadoes in the tornado belt. So
we have severe weather policies, disaster crisis management plans that include pre, during, and post.
Exactly.
All right.
And then think about the pandemic,
would that be under infectious disease policy? Like
that might be a little different because I guess you could include that. Now when someone's sick, do we really want them to come to work, or do we want them to give me a negative COVID test before I let them come into the office? So there's all things like that. What is our policy, with illness? Before, people were rewarded because they came to work no matter what.
Yes.
And now it's kind of like, what are you doing
It's
here?
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
How dare you put me at risk?
Right, exactly. Now we were being put at risk before because we were exposed to whatever they had if it was contagious.
Mhm.
You know, allergy attacks are one thing, but you know, the flu or colds or whatever, you need to really, and I have worked with folks on putting those kinds of policies together, which to me is different from when the pandemic hit. It is March 19th and you cannot go to work.
So that would be like an almost an external stoppage of business
Yes.
plan.
And what is the plan for that? You know, we are virtual. Before we were virtual, I have a condo in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so that condo is set up, it sleeps 8. And I said, I will be up there. Anybody that wants to come to Tennessee, that's where the office will operate should we be down for any period of time.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the county I live in after Hurricane Wilma was without power for at least a week.
Oh, wow.
Some were out 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I had a CPA call me and say, I've been paying my people for 2 weeks. How long do I have to pay them before I can't pay them because I'm not generating any revenue? So all of those things, what are the policies? The government actually sets policies on what you pay people, but that's the Department of Labor. So that's another thing.
In my previous operations job, we had, we called it it was on a ring. It was a crisis, like management book. And it covered for us, obviously severe weather. It covered fire. For us, it covered if anyone claimed to have gotten sick from anything that we served, like from our establishment, how do you handle that? It covered lost or missing children, covered that, and it would be these are the things you can do to prep yourself for this. And on this little half sheet of paper, these are the things, if it happens, these are the questions that you need to ask and get all the answers to. And then this is who you need to contact afterwards to find out what your next steps are, kind of thing.
That was nice. That was good. You missed this. And I've had this experience. What do you do with a bomb scare? We had a case where a bowling center where bomb scare was called in, and the only person on duty was a very young assistant manager. He did a great job. But after that, we put together training on what do you do in a bomb scare.
I think that's a great point. I don't want to scare any of our audience out there about oh my gosh, I don't have this disaster plan. I've never thought about this one or that one. All of your training, all of your policy documents, all of these things, guys, they're living documents. So you live in Florida, like Barb, obviously you're going to cover the big things, you're going to cover hurricanes. Okay, you got a hurricane policy. Don't have a bomb policy, but then one day it happens. Well, guess what? I'm going to go back to my living document and be like, okay, what did we learn? What do we hope we want to do next time? What are the correct steps that we may have learned through this process by speaking to experts who we may have reached out to? And then you add it to your living document. I just don't want anyone to think about, oh my gosh, there's no way, I just shouldn't do a disaster plan because there's no way I can cover everything that will ever happen.
Right. Think about where you are, where your location is. And no hurricanes, no earthquakes, no tornadoes. You might have blizzards. Mm-hmm. What do you do when there's a blizzard?
And everyone has the potential for fire. So
right. Exactly.
All right. So we talked about what a disaster plan is. We talked about kind of what should it include. What's the goal of the disaster plan? Because I think if you write something without knowing what the goal in mind is, then it can be confusing for the people who need to use the plan. So what's the goal of a disaster plan?
The goal is to have something written that's been trained, that there are procedures and processes for, that should that disaster happen, we're not scrambling around going, oh my God, what do we do? So the goal is to be prepared and to have a process and procedures in place, to have thought it through before there's panic, because it's going on right now. And have a team put it together. I'm not saying one person should do it. You want to have everybody on your team input. You want to get it from your employees. I mean, not the entire company, but have a couple of employees on the team from different departments. You might have a risk manager in the company, the owner, the HR person, the finance person. What do we do with cash, and how do we get money if the banks are all closed? and we need cash. I always recommend to have that and have small bills. I don't want to say how much, but I have a lot of cash in my house that's single dollar bills. Because if I need to go buy a case of water and they're selling it for like say $10, and all I have are 20s because that's all the ATM gives me, I might not be able to get change for that 20. But if I have 10 $1 bills, I can pay for my case of water. So my hurricane plan actually has that in it. Have cash on hand and have small bills. Don't have anything bigger than a 10.
Wow. Yeah, you got to specifically ask for that these days. Anything smaller than a 20.
Yeah. So I guess, that's the goal, is to be prepared. You are doing this to be prepared for blank.
All right. Tips for writing this. I'm assuming you can do a quick Google search and at least get some templates out there that will at least get your brain start thinking, right? Like any other tips you have for writing it?
And as I said before, you're not an island when you're doing this. Have it be collaborative, because everybody's going to have input. Not too many people that it's several different opinions, and then you don't get anything done. But there's so much out there now, especially from the hurricane perspective. After Hurricane Katrina, the Society of Human Resource Management, which is one of the main associations for HR professionals in the country, in the world, they actually came out with a hurricane toolkit after Katrina that they got from the various folks that went through it. What do you recommend doing, and what did you do that was successful?
And learn from people who have had to experience this, guys.
Exactly. I forget the name of the vacuum manufacturer, but there was a vacuum manufacturer outside of New Orleans that actually built a tent city for their employees.
Wow.
So, their plan was like, whoa. There's pictures of white tent after white tent where employees were living, because forget the name. I always forget the name when I'm telling the story, because I want to give them credit for it, because that was, talk about looking after your people. That was a great thing they did for their people, but it kept their business going. They're still in business.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I'm Googling it real quick to see if it comes up, but I don't see it. But okay. So can it just be written? Is this one of those documents that needs to be reviewed by anybody, or as long as it's a living document, you keep looking at it, you keep updating it, it's okay?
Oster.
Oh, okay. I've heard of them before. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was Oster. Yeah. Anyway, he's had me wanting. I guess I got to look it up now.
You're fine.
Repeat your question.
Is this one of those? Does this need to be reviewed by any type of expert, or is it just something that internally you tweak?
No,
you review it
there's
internally?
nothing. Yeah, there's nothing. I don't think. I guess any attorney would look at it and go, "Oh, you could be liable for that." But this is like, a shot in the dark for that situation.
Okay.
I would say that no, you don't need to have an outside person. But like you said, it's a living document. It's like your employee handbook. It's like job descriptions. It's not set in concrete once you write it. I review mine on my to-do list every May 1st. I open my hurricane plan, I review it, and then I distribute it to my employees, and I say, please review the emergency contact information on you to make sure it's all current.
Okay. I do know when I worked in restaurants before, leading into the holiday season, a lot of times our HR would send out the robbery the crisis management plan, and just have everybody review like the precautions that should be taken if it were to happen and all of that, because in our country, that's robberies go up during Q4 during the holiday season. And so it would be sent out at the beginning of Q4 just about every year. So okay, so I've written this great, fantastic plan. It's beautiful. I think I've thought through every step. Do you ever practice it with your staff? Do you just walk through it verbally? What are some tips so that when it is needed, that everyone knows what to do?
That's a good point, because I never did until I was at a town once and we were getting a hurricane and my staff took care of everything. And then after the hurricane, I went into the office and realized, oh my gosh, they unplugged everything from the back of the computers. They unplugged every cable, and every cable was wrapped in a rubber band. And I had no idea what cable went to what box to what port. And so that made me realize, oh, it's got to be really specific. You know, it's yes, take it apart, but leave the cables connected to the box and wrap it in plastic and, you know, put it up above, you know, if you're on ground level, put it up off the ground. So if something floods, they're not going to be flooded. But I would say that if you can't physically do a run through, you should sit in a staff meeting or, you know, communications meeting or whatever with the plan and have everybody have it in front of them and go through it and have them repeat it, because, you know, you reading it to them, they may be thinking about, oh, I want to Google what that company was that had the 10 city kind of thing, like I was doing. And I missed it. So you want to have them be engaged in the meeting so that they are prepared. So yes.
And I know that we've talked a lot about disasters that stop business possibly, but there are sometimes that you can still continue through with business through a disaster. And so I guess what that has a term, is it business continuation plan or whatever? Like if this disaster, if it is allotted,
right,
we could continue to do business under these like limited capacities or things like that. You may be able to determine that.
Right. I had one of my students actually that I was teaching worked for a company that brought a gasoline truck on property so that the employees could get gas from the truck. I don't know how it worked. I don't know what you did, but they made arrangements to have a truck brought to the premises so the employees could get gas so they could continue to come to work. I talked about me moving my company up to Tennessee. Should South Florida be in a situation like New Orleans was after Katrina? So, but there is also, and you don't want this to happen, but there is such an animal, if for lack of a better word, of business interruption insurance that you can purchase if you are in a situation where you think your business may be shut down, and then you can tweak it and customize it however you need. I know I had a client who their business was interrupted, but they had I think a 5-day waiting period before it would kick in, and they were only down like 3 days, so they couldn't collect on the policy. So, but that's another opportunity for the business to not like go under because there's no source of income to cover the necessities, the mortgage. There's certain things that are not going to stop because you're in the middle of a disaster. There may be grace periods awarded, but it's not going to be they're going to forgive you. So
yeah. Okay, so to do the disaster plan, I need to set up the emergency response preparation. Before it ever happens. During, okay, we know that this is coming. This is what I need to do. And not just what needs to be done, but what employees are assigned to those responsibilities to carry them out too. Right. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of instructions, no one who's actually doing anything. Right.
Well, why didn't we cover that bookshelf? Well, that wasn't assigned to anybody. I had somebody assigned to empty the refrigerator because the last thing you want is to come back to the office 5-6 days later or a week later and have this rotten refrigerator there. So every little step, every little detail was looked at, and communications to clients, you want to let them know the situation. I know family entertainment centers, that was one of the last to shut down before a storm. I remember, down here when I was affiliated with, I used to be concerned because you're staying open a little longer than I would want, and you've got to have employees working, and now they're going to be on the road going home when the conditions may not be as great to get home safely. You got to think about that. But when people are bored and they don't have anything to do, the bowling center was the first place people were going.
Oh yeah.
They weren't working, they had, and the bowling center had power. So guess what? We're going to go bowl. So,
we're going to distract ourselves from this disaster that is heading our way for a little while.
Right.
I also want to highlight something you said earlier is just make sure that it is clear and simple. That don't assume that people will know, so you want to make it as clear as possible. And then I'm assuming with each one of those, you have like the list of important phone numbers or what, you said WhatsApp, the communication portals that one would take
Right.
as well.
I actually would list the FEMA, the local
Okay.
FEMA number, the utility number, gas, if people have natural gas coming into their homes or their office. I know the bowling center, we had gas coming in, all of those numbers that you would need to call. The local weather, folks as well. So all of those, it was a whole page of phone numbers to reach, to call.
Oh, wow. For information or to let them know what maybe, or to report in things. You talked about communication to your clients to let them know business is stopping or whatever, or is interrupted in any way.
Direct deposit. This is when I always say a lot of states don't allow you to require employees to have direct deposit. But I always say, if we can get you payroll, because payroll can be run anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
But we can't get UPS to deliver paychecks so that you can get your paycheck. So this is a key reason. What I always say is, if there's not a problem, please do direct deposit. So your paycheck's going to be in the bank account on payday, even if we're not open.
That is a good selling point for direct deposit.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last step is just to review it with people, keep it as a living document, look at it every year, if it's a particular season like hurricane season, or just something like put it in your calendar, make sure you review it, make sure you, after a disaster may happen, if you have to live through one, that you talk about lessons learned and what was missing from our document. What do we need to add? What is irrelevant now? Because you said something earlier about communication and phones and landlines, and now you're like, it's a WhatsApp channel. So if it still said something about a landline, that would be irrelevant information now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Any last minute tips about a disaster plan?
No, just again, like I've said before, have one. And make sure that it's communicated, that everybody knows it exists. Have it be ongoing. You might remind them at the beginning of a season or once a year, but if something or anticipated, then say, remember, we've got this plan. This might be a good time to pull it out and start looking at it, because we might be in a situation in a week or two where we're going to need to be looking at it, and we want it to be fresh in our minds.
Got it. Awesome. All right. Well, Barbara, we have a signature question.
Yes.
So
I know what the question is.
You're already jumping in to answer it already. What are you doing on a consistent basis to grow others? I had you on recently and asked you about what you're doing to grow yourself, but now I'm more interested in what you're doing to grow others.
Well, actually, we have a requirement on a quarterly basis that each of our staff needs to take one CEU type course or webinar. In fact, one of my employees today took a 1-hour webinar on how to better utilize LinkedIn, because she wasn't as familiar with LinkedIn. So that's a goal for them, and we have our quarterly meetings, and they have to let us know what they've done. I am a natural born trainer, so I put programs together as well for my staff. I have one that really wants to learn more about accounting. So I've got a textbook that's for non-accounting professionals to help them understand financials and understand what they're doing for me as a bookkeeper, but it's going to help them have an understanding of the overall picture of what they're doing and how it affects the overall picture. So I'll do some training. If someone likes to read, I encourage they read books. Each person in my company is in a particular area where they're offered a certification in that area. You can become certified in benefits, you can become certified in payroll, you can become certified in HR. And so I offer that to my employees, because in order to get the certification, they need to study and they need to pass an exam, and I will pay for them to get that certification. So that's another opportunity for them that hopefully they stay with me, but if not, they've got something they can take with them that will help them further their careers.
That's all we at Train Entertainment love you, Barbara. Always coaching and training.
Always. Love it.
All right. If people are interested in learning more or have some more like specific questions about disaster plans, where would you send them to get more information about yourself or People First?
Well, as you can see in my background, you've got my email sitting right there. It's bflynn@peoplefirstinc.com, and office and cell is there. The office is 954-587-6100. Always happy to help. I love paying it forward. It's just whatever I like to share my knowledge and help people grow. So I'm
Awesome.
here.
Well, thank you for your time today, Barbara.
Thank you, Candy. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed spending time with you.
Hello, my name is Brittany Betty, and I am the Regional Sales Director and Business Development Manager over at Betson Enterprises. Here at Betson, we are so excited to be a part of Trainertainment this year. For those of you who are unaware of Betson and what we do, we are the leading distributor of coin-operated equipment, and we are a family-owned business that has been around for 85 plus years. Please take a moment to watch a quick video on an introduction on the phased approach and turnkey solution we can offer you in your facility. Thank you so much for taking the time for watching. And if you have any questions and would like to reach out to me, I can be reached at my email at bbetty, BBETTI, at Betson, BETSON.com. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or needs you might have in the family entertainment industry, and I would be happy to assist you. Thank you and have a great day.
Are you looking for ways to maximize profits and consolidate systems and processes? Join the Party Center Software and Party Center Pay family. Our suite of solutions makes it easy for you to run your family entertainment center or event business. Our online party booking system makes booking parties and events a breeze. Our point of sale system, digital waivers, and reports will help you simplify steps for your staff and make your guest experience seamless. Our online store allows you to sell products, gift certificates, and other services anytime, even when you're sleeping. But it doesn't end there. All of the solutions mentioned connect with our payment processing platform, Party Center Pay, making it easier than ever to manage your business. Not only can Party Center Pay save you money by cutting out extraneous fees, but Party Center Pay makes it easy to take online deposits or full payments, and we even have a contactless payment option. Paired with our incredible support team and dedicated customer success managers, growing and managing your business has never been easier. Schedule a call with us today to learn more.
My wife and I, this is a partnership with her and I, so we both agreed that, in creating Scary Strokes, that we want to make sure that we have the best available of everything. Embed just seemed like the perfect fit. It was pretty streamlined and had the point of sales and the software for the redemption, and it just seemed natural to us. So we've been with Embed since the very beginning. And so when Embed was introducing the mobile wallet, it seemed like a good opportunity for us to jump on, and it's wonderful. I mean, you reload your card from it, you redeem your tickets from it. There's nothing not to like about it. I mean, it's very convenient. It's very clever for sure.
Empowering your employees to manage your redemption area with confidence can be a challenge. The redemption counter is often the last stop your customers make before leaving your facility. That's why we do everything we can to help your staff make that experience one worth returning for. Our service packages allow you to reap the benefits of expertise and customer support, no matter where your business is in its maturity. The Advanced and Pro Service Bundles are unmatched by any other redemption provider in the industry. They allow you to get the support you need when you need it. Gain confidence in your redemption program, knowing your employees are taking advantage of benefits like exclusive redemption training, regular planogram refreshes, product performance and spending reports, and much more. All accessible from an online portal customized to your business. Learn more at services.redemptionplus.com.